the NCAA, the ACC, much like the Pac-12, they're always vulnerable. But the ACC is not going to go away without a fight. That much is very clear. In their latest filing in court, in their, battle with Florida State and Clemson, now the ACC has absolutely gone on the offensive. You can see in their filings where they look at things very differently than Clemson. You're looking at the document that the ACC filed in their retort to Clemson, where they seek a declaration that the withdrawal payment is valid and enforceable contract term applicable to Clemson. And if you read through this court filing right here, a declaration that Clemson owes fiduciary duties to the ACC as a member, damages for Clemson's breach of the grant of rights, and damages for Clemson's breach of the covenant of good faith and fair dealings. This is, by any measure, the ACC going on the offensive. There's no way to spin this. Number 3, a declaration that by accepting millions of dollars of benefits under the grant of rights and as a member institution that has operated under the grant of rights for more than a decade, Clemson is equitably stopped from attacking the validity of the withdrawal payment or the grant of rights, or in the alternative, has waived any right to do so. It is very difficult to argue with these terms that you're seeing on the screen. Jake, I don't know how you argue that the ACC is not in a very strong position if we are talking about a court fight.
Absolutely. And I think that the ACC, is well aware of that. That's the beauty of it. I mean, there are a lot of times in sports and in, life and everything where someone might be in a strong position, but they're not acutely aware of the fact that they're in a strong position. And that's what I love about what the ACC is doing here. I don't disagree with what Gary said. Yeah, at some point, the ACC is probably not going to be in existence, but that day is not today, and that day is certainly not tomorrow or anytime soon. And the ACC is going to do everything that it can do to protect the longevity of the conference. And I tend to agree with the ACC's thinking that, hey, if you want to leave our conference, there's a price to be paid to do that based on the contract that you signed not once but twice. And I think the exit payment and the fees and the structure with which you leave that conference is built in a specific way so that if you leave, they benefit financially so they can go out and figure out what's next for their conference. So I've never understood why schools think that they can just, say, yeah, we don't like the grant of rights anymore. So, we don't feel like it should be applied to us. It's unfair now that we're not happy with it. And that's what I think is kind of crazy. Like, we don't really see this behavior in the Big Ten and the SEC. And everyone wants to point to, well, Texas and Oklahoma. That was a different situation, right? Texas and Oklahoma had no problem paying their way out, and they negotiated a fee, and everything was good. And again, what I said yesterday, the Big 12 in that scenario was incentivized to allow them to get out of the conference. They had good reason to let them go so they could go ahead and move on. The ACC doesn't have that. So when you see the ACC going on offense, I love it. I think that this is what they should be doing. They should be saying, hey, yeah, the agreement is on our side. And if you want to keep running your mouth and you want to keep going to court and doing these things, we're going to start asking for things in return. And I think it's really smart. It puts Clemson and Florida State in a position where they have to decide just how painful they want this to be for themselves. And clearly, they're not ready to stop, filing motions and taking this thing to court.
Yeah, I think the question that is on the table is the ACC going to survive? Is the ACC going away? It's certainly going to be altered in one form or fashion. I don't know how you move forward amicably from here. This is serious language, and the ACC is going to court asking for serious repercussions against Clemson and Florida State. And I think a lot of this stems from the fact that this God tier we all talk about is not going to happen for now, at least, I think, 4 seasons. And so you're looking down the barrel of less revenue than your competitors. And I think when you start looking at the fact that you're not going to make what the ACC is not going to make what the Big Ten and the SEC are making, I think there is some concern about being able to play in the biggest games against the biggest opponents and have a level playing field financially and otherwise. And as there should be. But the bottom line is, you in the ACC, let's not spin this. Let's be very honest about what the ACC has been. It's been a weak-ass, embarrassing conference for most of its existence in football. It has never been the preeminent football conference.
Facts.
You look at the lesser tier brands, the North Carolina States, the Georgia Techs. I look at Miami, the University of Miami. It is humiliating how shitty that football program has been for so long, when you had an absolute behemoth in the 80s. And yet you're just non-existent. You look at Florida State. We can sit here and spin, and Florida State is this, and they're this huge brand. Florida State hasn't been at the top of the college football world consistently since Bobby was there. Jimbo Fisher was an abject disappointment at Florida State, and for most of his tenure. I don't know how you spin it any other way than that you are not making the money that the SEC and the Big Ten are making, because you don't win at the level that the SEC and the Big Ten are winning. And the Big 12 is very much in this same conversation. We talked about this yesterday. I don't believe that the Big 12 has a massive football brand. I don't believe that the Big 12 can make an argument it's one of the best football conferences in the country, because plain simply it is not. And until it is, you have no leverage. You have no power. You have no bargaining power. And that is exactly where the ACC is. I mean, and if you want to make the argument, let's have it. Let's vet this conversation out. But I don't see a way that you have an argument to be made if you're the ACC as the Big Ten does, where now you're getting Ohio State, you're getting Washington, you're getting Oregon, you're getting USC. You have multiple power brands in football. In the SEC, you're talking about dynasties in Georgia and Alabama, and you're talking about real depth in that conference. Yet, if you're the ACC, where's your real depth? Where's your real dynasty? Where's your powerhouse? If you're the Big 12, same thing. It doesn't exist. That's the hard truth that the ACC and the Big 12 are facing right now. And I don't know how else to describe the current landscape and the current financial situation happening in college sports.
Well, and I think for the Big 12, they have more opportunity inside their conference to make a difference for the conference than the ACC does. Like, at least in the Big 12, you can look at some of these brands and you can say, okay, Sonny showed us at TCU that it is possible, right? Not that, a brand like TCU or Texas Tech or, whoever you want to look at is going to be in the playoff every single year. But what I feel like Sonny showed is that, hey, at the top of the mountain, these programs can be in the college football playoff 2 out of every 5 to 7 years.
Yeah.
And if you can do that as a conference and you can have multiple teams that are competitive to that level, you're going to be just fine, because you're going to make enough money to at least stay relevant in the big picture. And that's what I think is troubling. You look at the ACC, and again, I know Dabo and Clemson went on their run, but it's been a minute now. It legit has been a minute since Clemson has been truly relevant from a college football playoff standpoint, and yeah, I think the rest of the ACC is really not even in the conversation. I mean, yeah, Florida State, sure, but ultimately okay, so let's say both of them are there. That's 2 teams out of your entire conference. Like, you look at the Big 12 and it's like, all right, if Texas Tech was good, they definitely would have a place. No question about it. If Joey figures that out, they're going to have a place. They're going to be a fringe team. No question about it in my mind, if they can have a good season, but it's why Baylor being so bad on the football field is so frustrating for the conference, because they shouldn't be that bad. They should be in the conversation to be like in the new format, to be a 12, 11, 10 team.
Yeah, but that team now is Texas Tech.
Yeah.
I think, and I know I say this every day and every time we talk about this, But if we're talking about the important brands in the Big 12, Texas Tech has to be near the top of the list of importance. And it's why I think there's a lot more pressure being asserted on Joey McGuire. Last year was a disappointment. And I look at Sonny Dykes at TCU. Last year was a huge disappointment. I look at K-State. I look at Kansas. I like this league top to bottom. You don't have to like Deion Sanders. This league needs Deion Sanders.
Facts.
The Big 12 needs Colorado to be good.
Yeah.
The Big 12 needs, like, Colorado basketball winning, playing its way into the field of 64. Hugely important for the Big 12 that be a starting point, not an end point for Colorado basketball, right? You have to find a way to lift this conference. Arizona, with its financial troubles, cannot be counted on. You just can't, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you say to Arizona State. I don't know. We were on campus at Arizona State this past weekend. It's beautiful. And you're broke ass and you don't win games.
Yeah.
That's a real problem. So when we talk about, again, Utah being the preeminent football program in the Big 12, that's not necessarily a good thing because their brand is tiny. Utah football is a small brand. It is not a Texas or an Oklahoma. And I guess we need to let that ship sail because you're never replacing Texas and Oklahoma.
Nope.
So we probably need to let that go. But these are very important times in the ACC and the Big 12 because I don't believe that the Pac-12, a lot of people are comparing the Pac-12 to the ACC. They're not close in any way, shape, or form. They're not comparable. The demise of the Pac-12 was pure incompetence. It was poor leadership, the inability to put a value on yourself. Like, it just everything that was wrong with that conference from the get.
Right.
The ACC, the biggest issue with the ACC is, in my opinion, that you have a brand like a Florida State who values themselves far more and above where they are. The conference does not. The problem is Florida State does. I think based on what Clemson says, Clemson does.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is much to the detriment of the rest of the conference. Because if you can find 8 current members, and now that you're adding Calford and, Dallas County, you're going to need, I believe the number is 10. If you can put 10 teams together and figure out a way to get Notre Dame involved, you have a real chance to break the conference. You have a real chance to break up the ACC.
Yeah, and I just don't know why a lot of the schools in that conference would want to do that, and that's the hard part is like, the smaller school inside of these power conferences isn't incentivized to get on board with that. But again, because you're a smaller school, you can also be leveraged into it. And I think that's what people, kind of discount a little bit. Like, these conversations absolutely happen. And if the UNCs of the world want to break up a conference, let's say, they're going to find a way to break up a conference. It's going to happen. And so that's why I say I think the ACC is fine for now. I don't think the ACC is going to blow up in the next, year or two. But I do think that that's on the horizon. I think that, you can only go so long with schools festering inside your conference, if you will, before bad things start happening, which is why I say them going on offense, the ACC going on offense, and the ACC dropping the hammer like this is exactly what the doctor ordered. It's exactly what I would tell them to do. You have to be bullish with your member institutions right now. You have to tell them, hey, like, we don't know if we'll exist at the end of 2036, but we're going to do everything we can do to ensure we do. And that's why we're going to stick this to you. And I don't know. I guess I just don't know what else, the schools in that conference would expect conference officials to do. I have no idea.
Well, and I also look at Troy Dannon at Washington. You got hired, in October? And now you just left and took the job at Nebraska. There's never been more instability at major programs than we're seeing right now. And I think all this stuff does, and all these conversations do, is they sow instability. That's what they do. Anybody notice yesterday the SEC essentially made it official and said, yeah, we're going to play 8 games because we can. And then in 2020, 26, they can go to 9 games. But why would you go to 9 conference games when you control the game itself, when you control the college football playoff?
Yeah.
The balance of power has shifted, and it's remarkable to me that it just so easily happened. And how do you reverse this now?
Yeah, I don't think it is a classic, hey, you let the horse out of the barn, there ain't no winding that back, right?
Yeah,
Can't
I
unwind the
don't
watch.
I don't know how you fix it. I really just don't know.
Well, I mean, the
how you
only
fix
true
it.
way to fix it again is winning on the field. I mean, that's why the SEC has such a grip on it, because there's nobody in the ACC or the Big 12 that is going to go out and beat their top teams. And so the only way that this is shaken is if the top of the SEC begins to have instability. And some people might say, hey, Alabama's got instability, right? Obviously, with the Saban situation. And Kalen DeBoer's done a good job so far. I think he's far exceeded expectations in recruiting. A lot of people felt like, oh, he's never going to be able to recruit. He's not going to be able to keep his kids. They're going to hop in the portal, go somewhere else. And some of that's happened. But I think, the only way that you can, I don't even think it's reversing it. I just think the only way that you can kind of, crack the door open a little bit, if you will, is if the top of the SEC starts to flounder a little bit and teams like Ole Miss or let's say Auburn on the football field start to have, Texas, Oklahoma start to step forward, and then at that point you can start to make the case, okay, well, maybe you guys aren't as strong right now. Maybe, this is our opportunity as a conference to go out and win some games.
I don't know. It's just so disheartening. I think we are watching the end of what could have been something really good.
Yeah, I feel like we're watching consolidation in college football, and the ACC is going to take a little longer to fall in line, but that's going to happen. And my only question is, what happens with the Big 12? Because I think Brett Yormark is the best of them when it comes to commissioners who know how to do business and know how to create deals that benefit two people. Because that's how you survive. You got to have a deal that benefits both sides and gives the SEC and the Big 10 a reason to keep you around.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing is disappointing.
Yeah.
It is truly one of the shrinking of college football and the shrinking of the stations of power in college football is terrible for fans. It is terrible for fans. There's just no I don't even know how else you describe it. It is so, in my opinion, it is so bad for the average garden variety college football fan.
Yeah, I mean, imagine looking at college football and not having any idea about realignment or what happened in the Pac-12. Like, there are going to be fans next year who have no idea what happened in the Pac-12. And then 5 years from now, there will be college football fans who don't know what the Pac-12 is. And that's the issue, right? The issue is that when you look back on history in college football, what's going to be written? Because ultimately, again, when I look at college football and, in decades, like right now, this past decade was dominated by the SEC, which is why they have all the control. And to your point, I don't know how you change that outside of winning on the football field, because that's the only reason they have the control. So if they continue to win and they continue to dominate and they continue to only have to play 8 conference games, it's going to be a long time before, we find balance.
And I will tell you, I'm not convinced the ACC is going away, because there is a path to survival. And I think a lot of it is going to be financial, and a lot of it is going to be how many do they lose? And is North Carolina leaving the conference or not? Because I still maintain North Carolina, Tobacco Road is the foundation of this conference. Use North Carolina and Duke, I think you're out. I think you're done. You can survive as a lesser conference without Florida State and Clemson, because I just don't, until Dabo's gone, I think Clemson is going to be an absolute dumpster fire, because the guy just doesn't, in my opinion, he doesn't want to win. I think he's fine winning if it's, his way. I think they're just not going to be elite. I look at what we are seeing in college football, and I don't know where does the bottom half of this conference go? because there's not a whole lot of appetite, in my opinion. When you look up and down at the ACC, I just don't see a whole lot of appetite for all of their brands. Yeah. I really don't. But that's just me. All right, let's get your comments in here. As always, brought to you by our good friends at Prize Picks. PrizePicks.com. Make sure you download the Prize Picks app. Use the promo code Monty. Celebrate my greatness. Didn't even have to take my clothes off for this one. How'd you do on Prize Picks last night?
Terrible. Otani's not going to come through for me today in this game. I think it's like the 7th or 8th. Bet. And he doesn't have enough.
Bet?
No, not bet.
That's an Otani gambling reference. I won last night. Now, your boy took it personally and held out on me. Kevin Durant didn't shoot a single free throw last night. Not a goddamn one. I needed 36 points, rebounds, and assists. I got 34. But thankfully, the should-be Rookie of the Year, Chet Holmgren, dropped 35 last night on your Utah Jazz. Do you think they know how to play defense and they just choose not to?
Yes.
And then Mookie Betts and James Harden, when James Harden was not defending Kawhi Leonard, like running out to the corner and putting a hand up. Mookie Betts and James Harden, way, way, way over the 4.5. I had them combined, James Harden and Mookie Betts, 4.5 total bases. I went more. Yeah. And considering Mookie just yacked all over your mom's face in Seoul, South Korea, that is to say he hit a home run.
Yeah, he went deep. He hit it far. The wood did the job.
Thickness and stuff.
Nice.
Good night on Prize Picks. The one myself, $56.25. You guys, it's what I do. And at some point, I do think you guys will come along to the fact that I am both brilliant and good looking. And when you have that combination, guys, it's lethal. It is absolutely lethal.
Just the stalwartness.
I mean, the lethality of it. Is lethality a word?
Macaque.
Mookie Betts has 2 hits. Or no, more than that. What the heck happened here? They're getting beat 11 to. How about the Dodgers in the Padres? 11 to 8.
San Diego.
11 to 8, the Padres lead. My guy Mookie Betts is 3 for 4 with a run, 4 RBIs, and a bomb. I mean, listen, I what else do you guys want me to do? I mean, I can only give you the money.
It's going good.
I can't make you keep it.
Yeah.
So baseball's back.
Who are you, Otani's interpreter?
NCAA tournament. You guys want my Prize Picks on NCAA tournament?
Come on, that was funny. Come on. Come on.
I got Caitlin Clark for 0.5 point. I have Dallin Hall from BYU at 8.5 points. I went more. He's got Duquesne 1040 this morning. Oh, he needs to score 9. Dallin, your name's
please.
Dallin. Okay. And then RJ Davis for 20 points. North Carolina has Wagner at 12:45 today. Prize Picks. Use the promo code Monty.
Hey, Monty.
Get 100% deposit matching at prizepicks.com.